Hey everyone, I'm Joe and today I'm doing my 2017 first quarter book stats video. Now I did a full year book stat video last year in 2016, and whilst it was fun to do and people seemed to find it interesting, one flaw with it that I found was that it didn't show any of the progression of certain stats throughout the year. Hence why this year I am going to be doing quarterly book stats video, obviously as this video shows. I partially sort of stole the basis of this idea from Katie from Katie Loves to Read, because she did this last year and it was really interesting. So I thought it would be a good idea for me to do this year because I like making them and people seem to like watching them. Also, it is called book stats rather than reading stats because I'm going to be including my book buying habits as well, which should prove interesting and rather scary because, well, the amount of books I buy is rather high. So, as you can tell by the end of time, now it's time for the stats. And the first lot of stats I'll talk about are the reading stats, and then I'll talk about the book buying stats afterwards. So the first one is the amount of books I've read in the previous 3 months is 54. And this is a nice consistent 18 books per month, which is remarkably consistent. I didn't plan it this way. I didn't purposely read only that many books per month. It just so happened that I read 18 books per month. Hopefully though, I would love it if I could get a really even stat throughout for this over the course of the year, because I just think it'd be interesting and would just be an almost amusing graph to see if it's like almost dead level pretty much across the entire year. We'll see. As far as the page count of those books go, as this graph shows, I've obviously been reading slightly larger books as the year has gone by. However, this is somewhat meaningless because, again, I am not intentionally reading larger books as time goes on. It just so happens that I started off the year with several short novellas, and then I ended up reading slightly longer things, and then in March I read some slightly big books. So it just happens to be coincidental that this is a completely even increase over time. Third is the genre breakdown, and this is probably the most boring stat of this video because there's absolutely no surprises whatsoever here. Yes, as you can tell, science fiction dominates really badly with a large amount of fantasy and thrillers to sort of equal things up a bit, and then a few other little things stuck on the end, but it's absolutely dominated by science fiction, and this is something that I expected, and indeed it's not something that's going to change anytime soon. It's always going to be science fiction dominated because that's basically what I like to read most often. The next stat is the one I'm most pleased with among this whole video, and that is the author gender. And as you can tell by the graph, I have read over 60% female authors this year already, which frankly is absolutely remarkable. Again, I didn't plan this directly. I was erring sometimes on the side of which book to pick up, and I'd go for the female author over the male author, but I didn't really choose them particularly too heavily. And indeed, that is one of my goals this year, is to even up the stats because in this regard, because I normally read very heavily a large amount of male authors and a much smaller female author percentage, so this is already massively improving, I mean by a very long way. Then we have author origin, and this is the country of their birth. So if they happen to be born in one country and then spend most of their lives in another, I'm not counting that. It's where they're born entirely, because basically otherwise, I have to sort of wait depending on where they spent most time, which is kind of silly. And as you can tell, and indeed as I expected, there is a large amount of American authors in this, which doesn't surprise me, with a decent UK amount as well. This isn't surprising, and indeed I expect this will probably continue. I don't think it's going to be quite as super American as time goes on because there's several collections of books that I want to read that I know are not American, so this will be slightly less American, but it's still going to be dominated by US authors, frankly. As far as page count range goes, there is a surprising number of smaller books that I've read this year. This does indeed tie in with the overall page count rise, as you saw from the earlier graph that goes straight up. And this proves it, because especially a lot of these I read in January and February, and I read much less shorter books in March, and I read larger books. So I expect this will be sort of more evened up as the year goes by. But again, I'm not purposely planning to read shorter or longer books. I just read whatever books interest me at the time. Then we have the year the books were published, and as you can see, a large amount of the books that I've read were fairly new books. Nearly all of them are within the last 20 years. And the stat I'm actually almost surprised about is the fact that there's only 2 books pre-1950s, which for me is kind of surprising, because, or at least I thought so, because I've always enjoyed classic science fiction books, which obviously quite a few of them are indeed pre-1950s. However, it has only been 3 months, so I just haven't got around to obviously the older science fiction yet. So this will even out slightly over the course of the year, although frankly there will still be a lot of newer stuff ultimately. And the final reading stat is the format I've read the books in, and this is actually surprising, because I normally read books in physical format, normally paperback, yet so far this year I've actually read more than half of them in ebook format on my Kindle. This is not on purpose, it just so happens that I've found a few authors and indeed a few series that I've liked, and I've read all the way through them, and it just happens that they're semi sort of longish series, 8, 9 books long, and there's been up to 3 of them already. So it's not surprising in terms of overall, like compared to this year, but compared to the previous few years, this is surprising, because normally paperback dominates, and I expect though that paperback will still dominate ultimately by the end of the year. So next up I'll talk about the book buying stats for the year so far. And the first one is an obvious one. It's like the reading how many books I've obtained, and that would be 77 in total. However, only 67 of them I actually bought. 10 of them were from publishers directly, which I obviously didn't pay for. But still, 67 is still kind of high in 3 months, frankly. I mean, that's 22 a month. So, yeah, that tends to go up and down quite badly, though. Sometimes I'll buy a lot of books in a very short time, and then there might be quite a big gap before I buy any more books on a significant number. So, yeah, this is fairly random stuff, this is really. Next up is the genre breakdown, and like the books read genre breakdown, science fiction dominates really heavily. However, unlike the books read, in this, mystery and crime books have a significant presence here for a change. That is very, very recent, however, in the last few weeks. So if you didn't include the second half of March, this stat would be totally the same as books read, basically. But I'd like it if I can make it slightly less science fiction dominated so heavily all the time. I mean, it always will be, but if I can make it slightly less unbalanced, it'd be nice. Next up is book format, and unlike books read, this actually is dominated by paperbacks, because I've bought a lot more paperbacks than I've read. Nearly every single ebook I've bought this year I've read. Obviously the paperbacks I haven't. I've actually bought way more paperbacks than I read, although hopefully I can try and get around to reading them this year, because that's actually one of my plans. So this is a little bit more sort of normal stat for me, indeed the sort of general trend of my book buying. I always like paperback books generally, I always have, and I probably always will, to be honest. Next up is the book source, and as you can see by the graph, this is dominated by online purchases. I mean, this isn't surprising to me at all. I've always bought way more books online than I've ever bought in stores. However, the fact that it's merely just above 75 is quite good and quite a positive step for me, because for the previous 5 years or possibly even 10 years, this stat would have been much closer to 95 probably, at least, I suspect. Obviously I haven't been monitoring it for the previous years, but I suspect it would be massively, almost entirely online based for the previous years. And finally I got to a point where I'm actually starting to buy in physical stores, and I like buying in physical stores personally, in person, because it's just fun, and you actually see the books that you're buying rather than just seeing them on a list on a website. So I enjoy this, and hopefully this can stay the same or indeed improve over time. The next stat is probably the most interesting of the book purchasing stats, and that is the average price per book and per month. And as you can tell by the graph, January I spent more money per book than I did in February and March. Basically, I bought some fairly expensive books in January, and indeed quite a few physical books in January. February I bought quite a lot of ebooks, which were very, very cheap, so this massively reduced the price. February was then repeated in March, and it had a really low month in March. So I don't know what this is going to be like throughout the course of the year, because to be honest, I've never really monitored my book buying in this particular way ever before. So I truly don't know what this stat will turn out to be. This could be fairly even, it could be jumping up and down throughout the year constantly. Yeah, I'm quite interested on monitoring this one actually. Next up we have book purchase location. This is actually the exact shops or websites that I bought them from. And as you can see by the graph, Amazon dominates. This is extremely surprising to me overall, because over the last 3 or 4 years I've been avoiding Amazon like the plague. I do not like Amazon at all as a website. I mean, frankly, Amazon are not very good priced anymore. At one point, like 7 or 8 years ago, Amazon used to dominate in terms of price. Nobody could compete with Amazon for price. Nowadays, they're actually terrible for price. They really are. And the only reason that this graph is so heavily Amazon based is because of ebooks and my Kindle. If it didn't include ebooks, then Amazon literally wouldn't be on this graph at all, because I've actually bought no physical books from Amazon this year. Actually, I haven't bought no physical books from Amazon in about 2 years, I think now. And even that was only one in 2014, I believe. So yeah, I'm not keen on Amazon, as you can tell, anymore. Everywhere else, I'm equally happy with. Well, and there's an interesting thing that all the places that I buy from are UK or England based, which, I personally like. And the last stat I'm going to talk about is the author gender. And like the author gender of the books read, this is heavily focused towards female authors, which I'm really happy to see. Again, I didn't plan this particularly. I just so happened that I found several new authors that happen to be female, and those authors happen to have a lot of books. Obviously one significant author, for instance, and indeed she will be read many more times throughout the year, is Lois McMaster Bujold. I've started reading her fantasy books at the start of the year, and I am now reading her The Cozy Saga books, which is a long series. So, authors like Bujold and several others are greatly helping to maintain this nice stat. And I really want this one to at least continue to a fairly high level. I know it's going to end up more male than female eventually, but if I can keep it from looking too bad, I'd be happy. So, with that said, that's actually it for the stats for this first quarter of 2017. If you've been tracking your stats, whether on a spreadsheet, or whether you just roughly know what you've been reading anyway off the top of your head, then please let me know. We can have a conversation. All my social media links can be found in the description box below, as they always are. And with that said, that is it for this video. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you another day. Bye for now.